Welcome back, guys. It's craft time. In today's video, we are going to be taking some Dollar Tree, specifically Dollar Tree Plus items, and flipping them for Easter. Let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I picked up were these cute fabric bundles of carrots, and they do sell these individually if you don't want a bundle. I think individually they had the option of polka dots as well. They were pretty picked through, so they might have had other patterns, I'm not sure. If for some reason you can't find these or you don't like the fabric, you could always wrap new fabric around it or simply make your own. And I do have a video that I made last year of making your own DIY fabric carrots, so you can change it up as you need. We're going to begin with these by cutting off the twine that kind of holds them together. I removed the twine around the bundle, and we're going to work with each carrot individually, and I'm just going to cut that twine that's tying the top together for all of the carrots. From there, I'm going to be removing that little like raffia grass that they have in there. It just pulls right out. And I'm going to be replacing it with some greenery. Now, I don't know what the name of the greenery that I have here is called because I am recycling it from another project. I was gifted this little like fern box, and this greenery was in there with it as a filler, and so I pulled that out of there and I am reusing it. Again, I don't know what it's called, but it's really perfect for the greenery that I'm wanting for these carrots, but you can find greenery anywhere. The boxwood greenery from Walmart also works really well for this. All right, so from there, all you're going to do is cut your greenery to size however you want that to be, and then you're going to insert it and replace that green raffia. Now, I like to take my finger and kind of like, wiggle out a hole in the middle. That way I can stuff the greenery, stick right down the middle without it fighting me or bunching up weird. And then I'm going to put a little hot glue on the tip of that greenery and put it in. That way it kind of has something to grasp and hold on to so that it doesn't just slip back out easily. From there, as simple as that, you're going to tie it back up. I'm going to use this white twine that I have rather than the little white strings that were on it before. And I'm going to wrap it a few extra times just to make it a little more substantial, just because I like that look. And then I am going to tie it closed. So I'm struggling a little bit with this because I'm trying to keep it on film for you, but off camera, it's easier just to kind of like put it in your lap and then tie it up, or you could, if you had a vase lying around, you could set the carrot in the vase. That way you could tie it easily. Don't struggle like me, but I just tied all of these back together and left a couple little the tie strings hanging off of them and just cut those down to a size I liked. And then from there, we're going to rebundle them. Now I did at the top of that kind of distress the fabric just because I wanted it to not look so put together. And I just did that kind of pulling a few of the fabric strings out and letting it fray. And you can also accelerate this process by using a just a little piece of sandpaper, and you just rub it and it'll help pull those strands out for you. And then you just remove those and it kind of frays out the fabric, which will happen naturally over time, but I just wanted to speed that along a little bit. Now again, like I said, if you don't like the colors of these, you can wrap your own fabric around it and tie it up just like we did before. To change the fabric on it, you might have to cut the fabric a little, maybe roll it and hot glue the side to give it a seam, to give it that nice carrot shape, but there are plenty of ways to switch this up to change the look. I like the buffalo check, so we're going to leave it at that. I'm going to use that same white twine and I'm going to wrap it around my bundle and tie them back. That way they're nice and secure and not going to go anywhere. And then I'm just going to take some of the Dollar Tree beads that they have, wood beads that they have. I picked up some white, some black, and some regular ones. I just kind of grab them randomly when I'm there throughout the time. So I have those on hand, but I am going to take those, string those up to make a cute little like tassel. And I'm going to use some of the little miniature wooden bunny cutouts that they have, and I'm going to stain that with the Waverly antiquing wax, let that dry, paint on a 25-cent marker, and tie that up just to add something else to this, another element, get some more textures in there, and I think these turned out adorable. I would love to know what you guys think about these bundles in the comments below. Next, I picked up this egg. This was also from the Dollar Tree Plus, and it's just kind of there. It has some really pretty florals on it, but it's all the same tones. They kind of tried to imitate the, you know, like when we white wax something or when we dry brush multiple colors on, but it's just falling short for me. So what I'm going to do is spring it up a little bit, and I'm going to grab some of my acrylic paints for those bright, vibrant colors, and I'm going to paint the flowers. I'm just going to pick a couple colors. I chose pink, yellow, and orange, and I'm going to paint those flowers up. I did do a little bit of blending just to give the flowers a little bit more dimension, and I just painted around those. And then I decided to paint the stems with green sage, and from there we're just going to let it dry. Now I will say I don't love the Blessing Easter's writing that's on it, so as you can see here, you can see it's just right there. I'm not a big fan of it, but there's nothing I can do. It's not like it will come off easily, so I'm just gonna leave it. And after that paint is dried, we're going to white wax. Now, I don't buy white wax, I just buy clear wax, and I add the tint of whatever color wax I'm trying to use. And in this case, it being white. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of white paint. You wanna make sure your ratio is heavily more on the wax side than the color side, or than the paint side, just to keep the integrity of the wax. But I used chalk paint in it and or acrylic paint, and I've never had issues with it. So I'm just going to use a little bit of white acrylic paint here, mix it up, that way I can go ahead and white wax this egg. Now what this is going to do is, one, seal in my paint, but also it's going to get in all of those crevices and cracks, and it's going to pop out that detail even more. So what you do here is you just basically paint it on and you wipe it back off. Wiping it off with just a paper towel. And just be careful you don't leave any fingerprints around. You're gonna set that aside and let it dry. And the end result, not my favorite project, but definitely way better than when we started. And I love the pops of color and the spring that it's bringing to life here. The next round of projects are these super cute little tin. It's like a little chick and a little bunny. They had a couple different colors. So I just picked up one of each of these, and we are going to definitely give this an upscale. So we're going to start by just removing the tags and the stickers and the strings. I'm going to go ahead and take off the ribbons and the bows from each of them and set them aside. Anytime I remove bows or ribbon or anything from any of my projects, I always just keep a stash because they can be reused, whether you're putting them back on your item or using them for a project in the future. So I just set those aside, and then I started just kind of rubbing to get all of these little sparkles off. Now I don't know why. They were perfectly cute. I don't know why we decided to add sparkles. It did nothing but destroy this piece. So we're just gonna rub off any of the loose ones. I don't care if the ones that are I don't care that they're on there because it's gonna give good texture, but I don't want any of those loose ones chipping off while I'm trying to paint. So I just use my finger and rub pretty vigorously. And then just to reassure, I took my sandpaper and I kind of rubbed, not too aggressively because I didn't want to sand the tin at all, but just kind of hitting any of those that might just kind of be in a semi-loose state, and then wiped them all down, and we're going to paint them up. For the little chick, I'm going to be using some white chalk paint with a little bit of yellow. I want to kind of make a really cute springy pastel yellow. So I just mixed that up, and I'm going to paint the chick up thoroughly, including the inside or the back side of his feet, because you will see that when he's standing. And I'm gonna let that dry. I ended up doing 2 coats on that, and then I moved on to the bunny. So for the bunny, I'm gonna be using this, I don't even know what it's called. Hold on. I'm going to be using Seaside Villa. This one is made by Folk Art chalk paint, and I am just gonna paint that on. Again, I did 2 coats and I let that dry. From there, I'm going to take the Rust-Oleum 2X clear matte and seal these in, because chalk paint does need to be sealed. I don't want to distress them or white wax them or anything, because I love the detail as is, and I'm loving the spring colors that are just shining through. So I just took them outside, sprayed them down, gave them a good seal, let it dry, and then we were ready to add those embellishments back on. So for the chick, I'm just going to be using a little bit of ribbon that I had on hand. I have a lot of Dollar Tree smaller ribbons on hand. So I'm just going to cut those down to size. I'm going to lay them out in a crisscross pattern. Cut my ends to however I want. For here, I did do the triangle cutout and also an angle cutout. and then a couple pieces of twine. I'm gonna pinch the center, wrap my twine around, tie it down, and then glue it back down to my chick. For the bunny, I'm going to be reusing the ribbon that did come on it. Since he has like a thinner neck, it looks really cute, more like a wraparound collar situation. So I'm going to reuse that on top of one of the lacy Dollar Tree ribbons that I have on hand. And I'm just going to cut to size, wrap it around, glue it in place, take the smaller one, cut to size, wrap it around, glue it in place, which I love that this ribbon matches the color so perfectly because it was not planned. So from there, I'm going to again make a little crisscross bow. I'm just going to cut my ribbons down to the size that I need, cut out the shape that I want the ends to be, cross them, pinch them in the center, tie them down, and then glue them on. These are such cute little tins, and you can definitely make them look like they are not a Dollar Tree product, which is always the goal here. In any of my Dollar Tree videos, my end goal is to not be able to recognize that this came from Dollar Tree. So go pick them up if you are blessed to have one of the Dollar Tree Pluses around in your area, because they are super cute and perfect for spring and Easter. Last but not least, I picked up one of their little bunny hangers. This one says Happy Easter on it. I don't love this. I don't understand why there is a tail and a bow. Like there's a tail on so as if it was the back of the bunny, but then there's a bow up on the ear as if it's the front. It's very confusing. I don't understand. And we are going to give this a major upgrade. So we're going to start by removing any stickers and all of the embellishments. Again, I set the bow aside. I set the little bunny tail aside because I do plan on reusing that for this piece. And then I'm going to remove the wording on it. I'm just going to take one of my little like window scrapers, and I'm going to kind of chisel from underneath to try to break the glue. And I was originally going to try to save this little Easter wording for possibly another project, but trying to save it became more of a hassle than just taking it off. So I just cracked it and slowly removed all of the pieces. I sanded it down, and then I'm ready to give it a nice paint job. So I'm just going to use this gray chalk paint that I have, and I'm going to paint the entire surface, including all of the edges. And then while it's still dry, I'm going to come back in with some white chalk paint, and I'm kind of going to do some shading and highlights. So I'm just going to play around with it a little bit, and then I also want to change the visual look of it as far as its shape. And I'm going to kind of round the booty of the bunny so that it looks like he's kind of like bent forward sitting. So I'm just going to play around with that until I'm happy, set it aside, and let it dry. Now I'm going to be using one of these 12-inch wood rounds. I did not get this one from the Dollar Tree, however they do sell them, so if you can find one of those and pick it up, I'm gonna kind of do like a scene with the two of them. So I'm going to paint this white just to get my base colors down and then let that dry. From there, I'm kind of playing around with what scene I want. I didn't fully have a plan going into this, so I'm going to start by painting the ground, which is the opposite of what you want to do. So if you wanted to kind of mimic this, do your sky first. It's easier to do your sky as your background and then layer your foreground on top. Again, I didn't quite have a plan for what I was going to do, so just don't do what I do. Anyway, I'm just going to, for the ground, I'm going to skip that and tell you how to do that in a second. We're going to start up in the sky. I just picked the colors that I wanted for my sky. I want to do like a pastel, like sunset situation. I'm just going to kind of add paint down where I want it to. I'm very comfortable with this technique, so I'm doing it this way. But if you are doing this and not comfortable, just know that you have to work quick, because if not, you will see the background of where your paint droplets were from where it's kind of dried on the bottom layer, or like, not really dried, but more like soaked into the wood, and it can leave like a harsh mark. So if you're not comfortable with this, then just put your paints on a palette and use your sponge to kind of pick the paint up from the palette and then sponge it onto the background. But for me, I'm just going to put my color straight on kind of where I want them. Use my sponge. I'm going to wet it first, wring it out just so it has a little bit of moisture in it. And then I'm going to just kind of bounce it around all over that sky just to give it a nice pastel sunset cloudy looking sky. And when I'm comfortable with that, I'm going to move on to the bottom. Again, I'm putting my paint directly down. If you are not comfortable with this or afraid you're going to do too much, then just use your palette and go from there. I'm going to put it down. I'm going to use a fan brush, but you can use pretty much any brush on hand that you have for this specific technique. So I'm going to do multiple colors. I'm going to do a green and a yellow. I'm going to put them down and I'm just going to bounce my brush all over the bottom of it to give it kind of like a foliage looking, maybe wildflower kind of situation on a hill. And I'm just going to bounce that around until I'm happy. The most important thing for this is that you don't blend the two colors together. To someone who's not familiar with this technique or comfortable with it, I find a lot of times you're going to want to just mix those colors in. You're going to have to fight that, and you want to leave those two colors, you know, kind of harsh against each other, because that's what's going to give it that texture and like wildflower look. So from there, I'm also going to be taking a like a chip brush and kind of bouncing along the top of it, and that just kind of break up that harsh line and make it look like it's more of a wild field and not a really crisp cut horizon line. So I'm just going to kind of do that. If you want grass like you saw prior to me doing the sky, I did use the fan brush for that, and what you're going to do is just use the tip of the brush almost as if you're sweeping the floor. When you sweep the floor, you don't smash, you know, the bristles of the brush down. You just use the tip and you kind of like sweep, correct? Or like glide. So for this, you're going to want that same technique. You want to just use the tip of the brush and you're just going to kind of like flick it. And you want those like angles to come out. You don't want to do it straight across. Grass does not grow at the exact same length. So you want those different lengths and those little points to come out to make it look a little more realistic. So there's several options for you to do there. You can paint a little cross up on your hill if you want it to go that route. If you want to add like more specific little flowers, just let your little heart run wild. But this is where I'm going to stop for my background. I'm going to let that dry thoroughly. There's a lot of paint on here, so it's going to take a little bit. I'm going to use my heat gun to kind of help it along, but you have to be careful. If you did paint it like me with those kind of like little puddles, your heat gun can overheat it and kind of cause little bubbles, which you can see a little imperfection in mine if you look hard enough, but I'm not worried about that because it's going to be covered up. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to take both pieces and I'm going to seal them with polyacrylic. I lied before I did that. I'm going to take both pieces, kind of lay them out how I want. So I want it to look like the bunny is looking into the field, and it's kind of like a, you know, the circle. I don't know. In my head, it looks really good. It's like as if he's like looking into the field. And so I want to glue these pieces together, and I want to make sure that they're nice and adhered. So I'm going to kind of lay it down where I kind of want it to be, take a pencil and mark it. That way I can sand down the part of the paint to make sure that the glue is sticking to the wood and not just the paint. That way there's no chance for it to like peel apart. I am going to use the STARBOND glue again. I'm a really big fan of this. It's a CA glue or a super glue with an accelerator. So I know a lot of people who do crafting, because I'm one of them. In many of my videos, you'll see me say, okay, I'm going to use this super glue and hot glue. Super glue for the long run, hot glue for right now so you can continue working. This is the perfect thing for you. I'm not going to say it's not expensive because it is. You can check it out in my affiliate links below because it's in my Amazon links, but I'm telling you it's worth it. It can set your projects within 3 to 10 seconds and it's amazing. You have to work fast, but it's amazing. So basically what you want to do is you want to put your glue on your surface, and then you want to spray the accelerator on the second surface. When they meet together, it will set instantly. So you don't really have time. You have to be pretty precise when you're doing this. So what I'm going to do is kind of mark on the back of this to see where I need to put the glue on the bunny. So I put the glue on there, and then I sprayed the surface of the round, and then I put them together and just held it there with some pressure for about 10 seconds, and that's good enough for me to move on. Now, I absolutely love this stuff, but like I said, you have to be precise, and you have to definitely clean it up immediately. If it gets on you, like it's gonna stick. There is the option to use it as a normal super glue without the accelerator, but the accelerator is what makes it so special to me because, like I said, it sets instantly. Once I have these two put together, it is time to seal it in with some polyacrylic. I just want to seal everything in. Also, as you can see, I did paint my background white, like on the back side. I like to make the back of my pieces look complete and finished as well, because I do sell my pieces. If you're just doing this for yourself at home, you can skip this step if you want. Again, I'm sealing this entire thing in with polyacrylic just to get the brush in there, make sure I cover the entire surface and it's nice and good. And then I'm also going to end up spraying the entire piece with Rust-Oleum 2X Clear Matte once it's said and done, just to make sure that it's nice and good, so that if somebody does put it out on an unprotected porch, it will help hold up a little bit longer for them. So from there, I went ahead and went into Cricut and I made a little, no, I did not make. I pulled images from the Cricut Pro. I do have a prescription for it to have it say Happy Easter. I pulled the image that I wanted, removed the parts that I didn't want, resized it to what I needed, and cut it out on my Cricut Maker. I am using just white contact paper as my stencil. I have found this is the really cheap and easy way for me to do this, but I will say I've used Dollar Tree vinyl for stenciling before as well, and it works really good as long as you don't have any small details that you're trying to focus on. So you could have used the Dollar Tree vinyl for this same step in this process. So I just cut it out, laid it down. This is my favorite transfer tape. It's more like a masking tape. Again, this is linked down in my affiliate links for Amazon, and I love it because it's just sticky enough to hold everything in place, but not too sticky to where you have any issues pulling it off. So I got this lined up, and then I'm going to go ahead and use some Mod Podge or clear, or if you have a solid color background, you can use that color paint for my first layer of the stencil. What that's going to do is just keep any of the bleeding from showing up. And then I'm going to use my stencil colors on top. I'm going to be using white chalk paint and that same yellow from the little chick I painted to paint this up. I just do 2 layers of this, and then I'm going to peel it off. Now, because I use chalk paint, I usually use acrylic, and for some reason didn't this time. It did, it dried so fast, it did peel in some spots, but I'm just going to take a little detailed brush and paint that back on. Once that's dry, I sealed the lettering in with polyacrylic, and once that was dry, I took it outside and I sprayed the entire piece with my clear spray paint to make sure that it is completely sealed and helps hold up to the weather. I did take a tissue and wrap it around the little bunny tail, because at that point I did put that back on. And as you can see here, I adjusted it up further than where it was originally placed, just because I feel like it looks a little better. So play around with it on what you think looks good. From here, all we need to do is add a string to hang it with, and I'm going to make a cute little bow. Now, I take a little bit of like filler and fill in the hole that I didn't need in the one ear. I didn't do a great job of it, but just enough to kind of paint it in to where it's not super noticeable. You don't have to do that, but it just made me feel a little better. And then I'm going to tie my strings on. Now I'm going to tie them on and use a little bit of hot glue. So I'm going to do the first tie, and then I'm going to put hot glue in the middle and do the second tie, just to kind of ensure that that's not going to come untied on me or fall off the porch or anything for someone who might purchase this. And then I'm going to pick out the multiple ribbons that I want. Most of the ribbons, I say everything but the orange buffalo check ribbon came from Dollar Tree. The other one came from Michael's. I'm going to cut those down to size, kind of in a crisscross pattern again, lay them out, cut off the ends to whatever design that I want them to be. I'm going to cinch it in the middle, use some floral wire, wrap it around, tighten it down. I kind of just readjust things as I'm tightening, and get it down to where I want it to be, wrap it up, and then use some of the same twine from the hanger to cover the center so that you don't see the wire, to clean it up, make it look a little better. Tie it in the back, again using some hot glue to secure that tie. Cut off those little tails and then glue it onto my sign. Now I am going to be using both that CA super glue and some hot glue, just to kind of reassure and make sure that there's a good amount of surface of glue and ribbon touching the sign so that it doesn't fall off. And we are done with this hanger. This is my favorite project from this video. I would love to know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know which one is your favorite. But I love this little hanger. Super, super cute. You tell me, would you have ever thought that this came from the Dollar Tree? Now, if you do, it hurts my feelings a little bit, but I love your honesty. So I am going to take you guys in for a closer look, but I truly appreciate you being here. I am trying to hit 5,000 subscribers by the end of March, and I would love for you to be a part of that goal. So if you're new and haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and this content. I would love to have you join me on my channel. If you're returning, thank you as always. I love you guys, and I will see you next time.